Good to see you again. We're going to get right into our lesson. Today's lesson is all about real world problems plus review. This is going to be our last video, and we're going to quickly go, review about real world problems, and then we're going to bust out some review. Big thing is, if any of this stuff is not making sense, please join me on my conference. I'll make sure I go over it and get you guys squared away. So the real world problems with this is, let us take a y equals mx plus b type of equation with a slope, and let's take a look at what these numbers really stand for. So let's take a look here. Our first one says that Joe's cell phone charges, they're going up, and this has to do with airtime in minutes, and this is the cost for charges. My question for you is, what do you think the y-intercept stands for? The y-intercept is going to be right here, and the y-intercept, normally when you guys get a phone, or you use minutes, or you have an unlimited plan, whatever you have, you mostly pay an upfront cost. And this normally stands for the upfront cost. No matter what, you have to pay $10. So in this case, what does the y-intercept stand for? Well, it's $10. What does the $10 stand for? It stands for the upfront cost of a cell phone. No matter what, even if he doesn't use his phone, he's going to pay that $10. The second question is, what is the slope? And remember from our very first lesson, how do you find slope? It is going to be rise over run, where the big thing I don't want you to do, a lot of people think that the rise is 30 here. The rise is 30 because that's the number 30, but we went from 10 to 30. So 30 minus 10, or just 10, 20 is 20. The rise is 20. And the run, 0 all the way to 250. And I like to use the points that it gives us. I like to use the starting point. I like to use the ending point. You could use any of these points here, but I like to use the very start where it starts and where it ends. So 20 over 250. And we can simplify that. We make that 2 over 25, and we can leave it like that. That's perfectly fine. But this has to do with money. And so you could also say that the slope is equal to 0.8. And 0.08, the question is, what does this mean? This is the main question. What does the slope stand for? Well, let's take a look. What is the relationship we're trying to look at? It is about money, and it is about airtime. And the slope, it's going up by 0.08. So what does this stand for? It's the relationship. By the way, this is very similar to direct proportions. Very similar to direct proportions. It is the money and its relationship to the minutes, and it should be 8 cents per minute. Right here, it's the relationship of money to minutes. The 0.08 stands for 8 cents per minute. You may have seen some of these commercials before, something like that. Let's go to the next one. Okay, let's read it. It says a swimming pool, when full, holds a certain amount of water. When the drain is open, the amount of water in the pool drains out at a constant rate. The graph shows the amount of water, y gallons, in the pool, x hours before the drain is opened. Okay, and it's got all these labels here. Let's take a look at these questions. It says, find the vertical intercept, or the y-intercept, same thing, of the graph, and explain what that information gives you about the situation. Well, that's pretty easy. We can find the y-intercept, and that is, the y-intercept is 600. Let me erase that. Is 648,000. That's the y-intercept. But what does this number stand for? Well, if we read at the very top, that is the amount of water it has in the very beginning. So it is the water when pool is full. You could say this in other ways, right? You could say that the starting amount of water, a variety of different words here, anything that has to do with the water when the pool is completely full. And then it says, find the slope of the graph and explain what information it gives about the situation. Now, this one seems like it's easy. You've done it a million times, but with bigger numbers like this, it can be a little confusing. So the 2 points I'm going to use is, I'm going to use this starting point, and I'm going to find the slope from this point to this point here to this point. So a lot of people think the rise, because if you know the slope, it's rise over run. People say that the rise is 648,000. That is incorrect, because we're going from 648,000 to this point right here, which is 248,000. Big mistake a lot of people make. So how do you find this distance right here? This distance right here? Well, you have to take this big number and you have to subtract it from this number. That is going to tell you the difference. So let's just do that right here. We're going to take away 248,000. Gives us a really big number. 400,000. That's the rise. The run is from this point to this point, from 0 to 200. So the run is 200. I just realized I made a small mistake, because do you guys see how this is going to be a negative? Do you see how we're going down here? See, I caught myself. That's going to be a negative because the slope is going down. This is a negative slope. I did catch myself. I didn't plan that. In fact, when I was going over these, I was like, got to make sure I don't mess that up. And good thing I caught it. Okay, so that is a negative 400,000 divided by 200. We can actually do this in your head, believe it or not. That crosses out. And then 4,000 divided by 2, which is negative 4,000, is negative 2,000. That is our slope. Question is, what does this stand for? This stands for, well, let's take a look. We're looking at gallons and we're looking at time in hours. So it is the relationship between the amount of water that's in this pool and the amount of time it takes to drain it. So this negative 2,000 means that it's 2,000 gallons lost. Why did I not put a negative there? Because the word lost means that it's negative. We're losing. That number means that I don't have to make this a negative. It's 2,000 gallons lost per hour. That's the relationship. Remember, y equals mx plus b, very similar to direct proportions. Okay. We're going to take on one more, and then we're going to do some review. Let's say Jeanette rents a bike while visiting a city. She pays $7 per hour to rent the bike. She also pays $8 to rent a baby seat for the bike. Okay. She pays this amount for the baby seat no matter how many hours she rents the bike. It says the graph shows her total cost, y dollars after X hours. Let's take a look at this. And it says first, it's my alarm. Find the vertical intercept of the graph and explain what information it gives about the situation. So let's take a look here. The vertical intercept is 8, so that y-intercept is 8. And what does this 8 mean? I was going to say upfront cost. That's the upfront cost when you rent a bike. But that's actually not true. If you look at the paragraph, the $8 stands for the baby seat. So it is the cost of the baby seat. It looks like a massive baby, by the way. Look at this. The baby sitting here. That is like a giant child. Getting off task. Cost of the baby seat. And it says find the slope of the graph and explain what information it gives about the situation. So let's take a look. We're going to go from here to here. And a lot of people say it's 64 is the rise. The rise is not 64. It's rise over run. And the rise is from 64 to 8. So to find that rise, we're going to take 64 minus 8. Big mistake a lot of people make. And the rise is 56. And the run, I'm going to make this look pretty. I'm going to make it look pretty. The run is 8. 8. And you guys see it's positive. It's a positive. So the answer is 7. The slope is 7. The question is, what does 7 really mean? It's a relationship. Remember, slope is always a relationship, rise over run. So it's the relationship of the cost per hour. So it's 7 stands for $7 per hour to ride the bike. Okay. Guys, that's going to be it for this one. We're going to go into some review. What I'd like you to do right now is if you have a piece of paper and pencil in front of you, hopefully you do, I'd like you to pause it every single time we do a problem, and I want you to see if you can solve it on your own. It's going to tell me if you really understand it. Let's go to the first one. It says, write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form that goes through -5, 4, and 8, -2. So, if you remember, let's do this one together. To find slope-intercept form, you need slope and you need y-intercept. So we need to find the slope first. So y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. I'm going to use that formula. I think it's easier. Let's put a 1 here. So 4 minus -2. And -5 minus 8. Let's make that plus a positive. That's going to be a 6 plus a -13. I think I made this hard on myself. I did. I made it hard. I think I randomly put 2 numbers in. This thing's going to stink. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be a tough one. That's the slope, right? That's going to be the slope. Question is, what numbers would you like to put in? 8 and -2 or -5 and 4. This one's going to stink. I'm going to use this one. So we know that y equals mx plus b. You know what? It stinks, but you know what? You're going to be able to do it. Y is 4. The slope is 6 over a -13. Oh, this is going to be painful. X is -5, and then I'm going to have someone raise their hand. Mr. Schreiber, is it a problem like this going to be on the test? No, we're thinking, is it going to be like this? No, I'm not going to make it that tough on you. Negative times a negative is positive. That's going to be 30 over 13. Oh man, this is going to stink. Well, how do we solve this? Well, it's going to be a -30 over 13. -30 over 13. And I'm going to do this right here. I'm going to do it off to the side. It's going to stink, but I have to have common denominators. So 4 times 13 is going to be 52. So I'm going to make that 52 over 13. That's the same thing. 52 over 13 is the same thing as 4 minus 30 over 30. That wasn't that bad. It's not that bad. And now we have common denominators. We can subtract the numerator. 52 minus 30 is 22 over 13. Yuck. That one stunk. So the answer is y equals -6 over 13x plus 22 over 13. Yuck. It's not going to be on the test, Ms. Sharp. Well, a problem like this will be on that review. It's not a test. And second, I won't make it, that difficult. Maybe I will. Maybe. Probably not. Okay. What I'd like you to do is take a look at this one right here. And can you tell me the equation of the graph in slope-intercept form? I want you to focus on these 2 points. Use these 2 points to be able to solve the slope. And what you can do first is the 2 things you need to know is slope, and you need to know the y-intercept. That looks ugly. The y-intercept is right here, which is a -2. And the slope from here to here, do you see how this is negative? So I'm just going to put a negative just so I don't mess up. That's a negative. And we're going to rise up a +2. And we're going to run, we're going to the left here, so that's a -3. So remember, it's rise over run. It's going to be 2 over -3, or -2/3. So we have that, guys. We have basically the answer. Y equals, the slope is -2/3, x minus 2. And you can kind of check this like -2, 3, -2, 3. It always works. -2, 3. Rise over run. Or you could go down -2 over 3. Next one. Pause it again. See if you can do it. It says write the following equation in slope-intercept form. I'm going to prompt just like this one. So remember, we want to get this into y equals mx plus b. And if you remember, we have to get y by itself. We have to get y by itself. Y is not by itself right here. So what we have to do is we have to get rid of the things or move things over that are in the way of y. The first thing I'm going to do is take away 5x on both sides. Okay, that goes away. We still have a negative 6y equals a negative 5x. We can't do this. Remember, don't put, you can't add those or subtract those. You can't do that because they're not like terms. Oop. And then last but not least, to get y by itself, let's divide both sides. You know, you can put a -6. I like to put 2 just so I don't make the mistake. And that goes away. -5 divided by -6. I'm going to write that as a positive because a negative divided by a negative is positive. And then -12 divided by -6 is a positive 2. That's it. Let's take on another one. It says, what is the slope-intercept form of a line with -3 slope and goes to the point 5, 6? Well, if you remember, and again, if you'd like to try this out on your own, that'd be great. I know what the slope is, -3x plus b, and then now all I have to do is plug these numbers in for x and y, and I'm going to solve for b. Y is 6. X is 5. And we can solve. B is 21. Again, that's not going to be our answer. Our answer is, what is the slope-intercept form? The slope is -3. It already gave us that, right? It gave us that right there. -3x plus 21. Wonderful. Circle, always circle our final answer. And we are about done. Oh my gosh, that was it, guys. That is our review. Now, it may not seem like we covered everything, but in reality, all the things we've learned kind of meshes together. And so those are some of the problems you're going to see on the review. I highly recommend, if you're not getting this, if it's not making sense, this is the #1 concept you need to know for next year. In fact, whenever we talk to your 8th grade math teachers, they always say they got to know linear equations. It helps you guys out for algebra next year. So if you're struggling at all, see me at the conference. I may make it a bonus point situation. So if you join, get some bonus points. Just remind me. And yeah, I hope this made sense. And if you need any help, just contact me on Schoology.